Yo, what's good with you? It's Nia Queen, and we are back for another episode of What's Good with You. And the thing that I love about this podcast is it has no limits. And I've been trying for years to figure out a way, how can we talk about sex on this podcast without making it raunchy, without making it too much, but digestible for even my parents might be able to listen. And I always wanted a sex therapist because honestly, me being a therapist, I never truly knew what a sex therapist does. So today we have a very special guest who is currently in her intern program to be a marriage and family therapist. And she specializes in sex therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yes,
a
I do.
pleasure. It is a pleasure to introduce Taj Omari-Florida. How are
Yay.
you
I'm
today?
doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I was so excited. Shout out to Jordan
Shout out
for
to Jordan.
for hooking me up with you because I really have been wanting to do this episode for a long time because I just feel like there's a lot of misinformation and
Mhm.
lack of education around sex, especially with Black girls.
Yeah,
And just me, myself, growing up in a very religious family, no one ever talked to me about sex.
right.
No one. No one ever talked to me about sex. It was like I literally had to learn as I went.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nobody had those discussions with me. And I think that is important, especially me working in a high school now and seeing all these young girls
Yeah.
engaging in sexual relationships and not really understanding what they're getting into. I
Mm-hmm.
just wish I had somebody, to educate me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, what made you even want to get into sex therapy?
Sex therapy. Good question. A lot of reasons, actually, but okay, well, first and foremost, I also grew up in a very religious family. I grew up Muslim, and so we definitely had zero conversations about sex.
Mm,
And so when I first started to feel some activity down there, I was extremely confused. What is this? Every question I had was denied, and don't worry about that. You're too young. Like just shut down, shut down, shut down.
right,
But I think the first time I really saw my eyes light up talking about sex, and not just about the fun of sex, but talking
right.
about, having a comprehensive conversation about sex. I was in high school and there was a club called Lilas, Love You Like a Sister. And I think I was in like 10th grade and 12th graders were running the club. And that was my first time having a real conversation as a young woman, talking to other young women. Um, our club sponsor was a woman, and we all just had good conversations about sex. And I was like, wow, we really need to have these conversations. And
Mhm.
so then I go to college and I study psychology, and I took a class. Um, it was called Sex and Society, and that class blew my mind. I mean, just opened my mind up to how sex is portrayed in our society, opened my mind up to really how I don't want to say universal, I'm a therapist,
Right,
but like a lot of us experience the same confusion, the same abuse, the same judgment when it comes to sex, the same shame
right.
that comes with sex. And so also as a fellow therapist, it's good to have a niche. And so I was like, well, this is a space that I think I should go in because not only am I comfortable having conversations about sex, I enjoy it. And I enjoy, sounds weird, but I enjoy making people uncomfortable, introducing topics about sex, because once they push past that discomfort, it's like enlightenment. And
Right.
that's really what I shoot for. So that's my roundabout answer.
And when we were talking before, you were telling me about some of the misconceptions that people think sex therapists or therapy is. Even like I
Yeah.
told one of my friends, like, oh, I'm having a sex therapist. They were like, ooh, what they want? You should
Ooh,
ask
what they
her.
talking about?
Yeah. My friend was like, you should ask her, what kind of vibrator should I use when I said, wait a minute, that's not what sex therapy is. That's not what we're about to
Oh,
talk
I
about.
love
We're
it.
not
I
talking
love it.
about vibrators today. I'm sorry.
We're not
But
talking about vibrators.
what do you think are like the misconceptions of sex therapy?
Well, you know how like talking about sex is still taboo, even though it's everywhere. It's
Right.
still a taboo topic, and so it doesn't surprise me that like the questions I get about being a sex therapist. Um, yeah, the initial reaction I get is either what or oh my God, like what should I use? Like your friend.
Right.
Um, or I just, depending on who I'm talking to, I kind of avoid it because it opens a Pandora's box that I'm not ready to go into.
Right.
So let's see, some things that I've gotten. I've been asked, do we have sex with our clients to teach them how to have sex? I've been asked, do clients watch us have sex and they learn that way? Um, I've just been asked a lot of like crass questions, I guess, around that.
Mhm.
Oh, so that's my man's voice. I'm sorry. Oh, so like y'all doing it right there? Like you showing them how to do it? And I'm just like, no, no,
Mhm.
not at all. Sex therapy is not sexy. It's not sexy at all. We're dealing with the roadblocks that keep someone from enjoying sexual satisfying experiences, satisfyingly sexual experiences.
Mhm.
And so there are a lot of roadblocks that keep us from doing that, whether it's abuse or trauma or insecurity, or you just had a baby and now your body is bouncing back, or
Right.
you've gotten a little older and getting an erection is a bit harder for you,
Mhm.
and all of the emotions that come with it. And so sex therapy is not sexy at all. Like it's very, I mean, yes, we have the fun conversations. Like if a client did want vibrator recommendations, I have vibrator recommendations. If they want,
Okay. Mhm.
different, like we can go there, but oftentimes we don't.
Right.
Oftentimes we're talking about childhood. We're
Right.
talking about daddy issues. We're talking about, low self-esteem. So it's really not sexy at all.
Yeah, that's what I figured because I think talking to you, I'm getting more and more educated on it, but I always thought of a sex therapist, I'm thinking like, oh, you're helping other people heal from their sexual trauma and
That's a
being
big
able
part.
to get back into romantic relationships or their
Mhm.
own, sexual
Mhm.
experiences. So that's
Mhm.
what I thought it was. But when you gave me the example of, women who go through postpartum depression or, just that change of having a child and getting back, because that's a huge change. Like a baby just
Big
literally
change.
came out of you. So I can understand how that can change the way that you approach sex.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's why I'm so happy to have this
You know,
conversation.
a lot of things change the way we approach sex,
Right.
and it's because we often start off our sexual lives with misconceptions about sex.
Right.
One, because comprehensive conversations don't happen.
Right.
Usually our first example of sex is porn, which is make-believe fairy tale land,
Right.
and
A
that's not
movie.
explained.
Right.
It's not explained. Many of us feel like sex is just supposed to happen
Hmm.
because I am a person with genitalia and I should just be able to have sex when I want to have sex. And
Right.
sex don't work like that. It
Right.
don't work like that. It depends on a lot of different factors.
Right.
So we can talk for days about all the
Right.
things that can keep someone from having sex and coming to see someone like me.
Right. Would you say, or what would you say to parents who don't educate their kids on sex because they don't want to encourage them to have sex? Because I hear
Mm,
a lot of that, you know, with dealing
mhm,
with teenagers and they're
mm.
having sex and it's becoming an issue in the household, or they think that they might be pregnant and they're terrified
Yeah,
to even speak that to their parents. So
yeah.
what would you say? Is there an age where you should start talking to your daughter or your son about sex, or do you think that you should wait? Like, what would you suggest as a sex therapist?
Well, I'm always going to encourage conversations because, education does not mean encouragement. Just because you teach someone about something, it does not mean they're going to run off and do it. Actually, it's the opposite. When you teach someone about something, they're more educated so they can make a decision.
Right.
Whereas, a lack of education breeds curiosity. And so, they're going to go find their answers on their own, which is
Mm,
where a lot of us
right.
have fallen into pits of foolishness that we had no business
Right.
being in if
Right.
we would have just had a comprehensive conversation. So the age thing is tricky because everyone is different.
Yeah.
I actually don't like to put an age on it. I'm going to say when your child starts showing signs that they understand that their genitalia has little feelings, little
Mm.
tingly feelings. That's
Little
it.
thing.
Oh, did like something is happening that's beyond me having to go to the bathroom.
Right.
I feel different. That usually comes around puberty ages. Like I said, age is different because women and men, we all hit puberty
At
at
a
a different
different age.
time
Yeah, different
you
time.
know? And so I always encourage parents to don't shy away from the questions. If your 6-year-old is asking you where babies come from, then you can tell them where babies come from without being explicit.
Mhm.
You don't, I think, and I have to be very careful because I do not have children yet, right? So
Mm.
moms out there
Me
listening,
either. Yeah.
understand that there's a world of things that I do not know. But as a therapist who's worked with children, um, I would say honesty is a whole lot better than fairy tale stories. I know you want to protect their innocence.
Right.
I get that. You can protect their innocence by, just sugarcoating the truth, but it's still the truth. And also, just keep in mind that if they don't get the answers from you, they're going to go searching for the answers somewhere else.
Right.
And that's what you don't want because
Right.
then Pandora's box is open. You don't know the type of message they're going to receive going out into the world. They're going to find it.
Right.
They're going to find it. So, talk to them
Always-
about it.
I always felt, just in my experience, that since I grew up in such a strict household and it was like forbidden, like you don't have sex until you get married. You're
Right.
not having sex. I remember leaving for college and
Mhm.
asking my mom for birth control, and she said, no, because you're not going to be having sex. And I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, like,
Denial.
because I was just like, I was thinking I'm trying to be mature and be
Mhm.
let me get on birth control. But at that time, I was a minor leaving for college. So I needed a parent to consent for me to be on that. And she was just like, you're not going to be having sex. And it's just like, I feel that when you just are so rigid and just
Mhm.
forbid, 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 that's just going to make the kid want to do it more.
Push them more. Push them to
Yeah,
it more.
you're like literally pushing them into it because I'm thinking, well, why? Like, why? Why? I wanted to know more. Like, I wish my mom would have told me there's the emotional
Mhm.
part of it. There's a, mental part of it. You don't know what's gonna happen to down there. I wish
It's a
that I
lot.
would have had those conversations because maybe I would have waited. Kind of like what you said. When you know more, it's like the opposite because you can make like almost like an educated decision rather than a decision off the impulse
Mhm.
thinking that, oh, well, if
Mhm.
I don't have sex with this dude, like he's gonna leave me when he
Even
could leave you
still, like,
after having
why
sex.
do we think that's a bad thing? We're
Right,
trained to think that that's a bad thing.
right.
So, like, I mean, if they leave, fine,
Mm.
cool. This
And
one, 15 one coming. So, my bad.
okay, but I mean, this took me years to learn. I'm
Right. Me too.
28 years old.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking about just my experience with learning about sex and losing my virginity. And it just
Mhm.
wasn't a pleasant experience. And
Yeah,
I remember feeling down and like I wanted to call my mom, but I was just so scared. Oh,
scared,
never tell her. Like
scared.
I
Yeah.
never want to talk about it with my parents because I feel like they would disapprove of me. And
Yeah.
another thing is, what are your thoughts on how Black women
Mhm.
are kind of, I don't want to say shamed about their sexuality or their bodies from a young age. I don't
Mhm.
know if I'm wording it correctly, but I just remember growing up like, you can't wear them shorts.
Right.
You can't wear that dress.
Mhm.
Got hips. You cannot
Mhm.
wear that. And it's just like, I can't even be
Sad.
a kid.
Yeah.
Like I see all the other little white girls wearing the shorts that go all the way up, but
I
I
mean,
can't
crop
wear that
tops.
because then I'm fast. And it's just
Yeah.
like, I'm 10. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that little girls or it's specifically Black girls get kind of like sexualized before they even mature or before they
Yeah.
even get to puberty?
Well, look at what we've been through. That's really the only answer I can give. A Black woman has been through so much and so much abuse, so much sexual abuse. And Black women were also protectors. We are highly protective over our children. And
Hmm.
so, our mothers, they did their best. They did their very best. They did their very best. And they just didn't want what happened to them and what happened to their sisters and what happened to their mothers and so on and so forth to happen to their children. Like,
Mm,
I remember I got pissed at my mom. I mean, big mad, because she would not let me sleep over a friend's house.
yeah,
And I couldn't understand it because my mother's just like, it's either my way or the highway, and you're not going to the highway, so go to your bedroom. Like that was it.
right,
That was
yeah.
it. So I was mad. I didn't find out until like my late 20s that my mom had experienced abuse at a sleepover.
Wow.
And that's why she kept, like, I was always right there,
Right.
like ready for her to grab me.
Hmm.
And another layer of my pissed offness, if that was a word, is that I have two older brothers. And so I saw how freely my brothers could move and how
Right,
restricted I was.
right.
Like, I can't run up to, uncles, and give them big old hugs. I can't let men pick me up and scoop me up like that. Like, I have to be more reserved. Like you said, I can't wear certain outfits and different things because I'm going to be sexualized, unlike my brothers.
Right.
And so as a child, I was just confused. I was mad because I wanted to be free, you know. But now that I'm an adult, I get it. They were protecting us the best way they knew how.
Hmm.
And nothing was explained to them. So why would they have the language to explain it to us?
Right.
Like my grandmother is of the silent generation, that it's in the name. It's in the name. My grandmother is turning 90 next month. She won't tell you nothing,
Right.
nothing. And so I give my mother credit for at least saying, when I got older, at least telling me then, because
Right.
I can't crack that safe with my grandmother. I still can't, still
Hmm.
can't. And so I think the best thing that we can do, um, like as millennials and Gen Zs, as we have our children, that we learn how to have better conversations,
Right.
and we're going to stumble through it because we didn't have examples. Our example, we do not follow,
Right. Yeah.
don't want to follow it. So we're going to stumble through it. It's going to be difficult, but at least we're going to have more conversations
Yeah.
about why you can't wear those short shorts, or, you can't go stay at such and such's house. It's to protect you. And you may not get it today, but one day you will get it. And I want you to call me on that day that you do
Yeah.
that type of energy, as opposed to just no, close the door, in a discussion.
Right. Because also, and I'll just speak for myself,
Mm-hmm.
that shame around, not wearing certain things or even having sexual feelings, I was ashamed of myself for having
Mm-hmm.
those feelings because there
Mm-hmm.
was never a space growing up where it's like, it's okay to have these feelings. It's just about how you deal with them. It was just like
Mm-hmm.
no sex, no nothing. So I'm going to college and I'm having these feelings like, oh, he
Yep.
looked good. He looked good. And I'm feeling a sense of shame. Like I can't even talk about it with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
When I lost my virginity, I didn't even want to tell my friends about it because I was so ashamed. And I was
Yeah.
just like, oh, I let down my parents. I let down everybody. Like I'm a bad person. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where the harm is when you don't explain. But
Yeah.
obviously, as we grow older, we give our mothers grace because we understand better. But when I was 18, 19, I'm like feeling terrible about myself.
No
I'm feeling
grace
like,
in
oh, I'm a hoe. Like
Mm-hmm.
I slept with this person, I slept with that person, like I'm a hoe. Like, and really it wasn't that, but because there's so much shame around it, it's just like, oh, you're a fornicator, you're a
Yeah.
whore. Like this is
You
it.
were programmed to experience shame.
Mm,
That's what we were taught. And I'm gonna take it a little step further. It's not just us as Black women. Women are programmed to be ashamed of their vaginas. I mean,
mm,
just think about, like, we all have cycles, right?
right.
Well, we have cycles. But I mean, okay, pull the lens back a little bit. Let's look at what TV commercials show us, right? We look at the Playtex sports commercials, right? We look at
Mm,
any sanitary napkin, tampon, Diva cup, whatever commercial, and these women are running marathons. These women are just smiling and cooking and this, that, and the third, and it's just like, oh, periods, don't worry about them. That's not a thing. It's a non-issue, right? And so when you have that rhetoric
mm-hmm.
coming from like coming from companies, propaganda, whatever, you have our mothers telling us, that if we wear certain things, we look like we're fast. If we, no, you don't want anybody to know that you're on your period. You can't have sex with nobody before marriage. You can't talk to the boy because you'll look fast.
Right.
That's all about it's like putting shame in us. It's
Mm,
it's literally teaching us to be ashamed. And then there's so little information about the female body, the female reproductive system, the female sex organs. Like, there's hardly any conversations about it, right? Majority of my female clients, the first thing I ask is, who taught you about your body? Who taught you?
mm-hmm.
And that's one of the first biggest hurdles I have to get over. And then the next one is, I'm like, do you know what your vagina looks like?
Mm.
Have you ever sat in front of a mirror and said, hey girl, we've been together our whole lives. How you doing?
Right.
Oh, but the vagina has so much power, right? The vagina it can move mountains. It started wars. It controls men, all this other stuff. It's so confusing.
Right.
So my vagina is extremely powerful. It's a little pearl I have to protect, but it's also something you won't tell me anything about.
Right.
Won't talk to me about it,
Right.
but it's attached to my body and it does all these things. Nobody tells me. That shame is instilled in us on purpose. They
Mm,
don't want women to be sexual beings.
right. It's a
No,
double
no.
standard. It's a double standard. Because with the men, it's like, yeah, I see you, nephew. You got
Right. You got
well,
all those girls, nephew.
exactly. Like,
But let me talk to one boy in a Kroger. I'm just talking to the bag boy at Kroger, and
right.
I'm getting snatched up.
Exactly. Because you was being fast.
I was being fast. Yep.
Because you was being fast.
I was being fast.
And and do you work with women and men?
Hmm. Yes.
What is that like? In seeing the
What you
difference
mean?
of like how women feel about sex and
Mhm.
how men feel about sex. Because people always like the narrative is that, oh, men could have sex with no emotional connection. Like if a man cheats, it doesn't necessarily mean that he likes this woman. He's able to just lay with her and that's it. And a woman can't cheat because when a woman cheats, it's emotional. That sexual encounter is emotional. What do you think about that?
Mm. Those type conversations are tough for me. They're
Mm.
so annoying.
They are.
Oh,
They are.
they just annoy me because it perpetuates the narrative that men have no control over themselves, that they have no self-control. And I
Mhm.
think that's what bothers me the most. Now, there is biological merit to the concept, right? There's a reason a man can ejaculate multiple times a day, shoot out thousands, millions of sperm cells that can lead to babies. And
Mhm.
we get one egg a month, right? There's a
Yeah.
reason for that. Our brain chemistry also kind of follows that path. When we like somebody, we like somebody. Like it's just that one person in
We
our vision.
locked in. Tunnel
We
vision.
locked in, right?
Tunnel vision, yes.
Exactly. I think that's why, like in lesbian relationships, they go from 0 to 100 so fast. I mean, we moved in, I like you, let's move in together.
Right. It's super
Type
fast.
thing. Fast, right? But men, it takes them a little longer. Like men have to feel like their woman provides a safe space for them. And
Mm.
that takes time to develop. That takes time, that takes energy, that takes effort and consistency. Um, and that's a lot to ask for,
Yeah.
you know? That's a lot to ask for. Now, I will never excuse a man for cheating. That whole, well, a man is gonna cheat, you just gotta get used to it. No, no,
I'm
you don't.
with you. I'm with you on that.
No, you don't. So if like let's say I have a client who feels that way, oh, my man cheated and he's saying it's because, men are going to be men. I would talk to her and be like, okay, well, do you want to be with a man who's a cheater? Do you
Mm.
want to be with a man who is a cheater? And if her answer is no, then I'm going to be like, well, this isn't the relationship for you because this man cheats. Every man does not cheat.
Mm.
So, are you going to keep settling for men who cheat on you, or are you going to wait for a man who won't cheat, who is
Mm.
disciplined enough, who is sure in himself enough, or who's just over that part of his life or has never been interested in that part of his life? It's like they have a choice. Men make the choice to cheat. Whatever their reason is their reason. If
Mm.
that's, a boundary breach in your relationship, then that's a boundary breach in your relationship, period.
Mhm.
Period. I don't care that you have a penis. Like, that doesn't,
Right. Right.
you're a person, you're an adult.
Right. And you said something when you were talking about the why of it, and you said, is he sure of himself?
Hmm.
And it just made me think of well, I guess when we're talking about so-called promiscuity,
Hmm.
do you think that that comes from a lack of being sure of yourself? Is that from insecurity,
Good question.
or is that just a choice? Well, I just would like to sleep with this many people.
It comes from a lot of places.
Okay. So
You
it's no
know,
one answer. It's a case by case.
it's case by case.
Okay.
But, I will say with men,
Mhm.
with men, okay, first I'll say this. Promiscuity comes from a few different places, but one of those places is trauma. It's a trauma response,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
And a lot of men have experienced sexual trauma, but they did not know that it was sexual trauma.
Mm.
I remember another story time. I was on the swim team. I think I was maybe 13 or 14 on the swim team. It was an all-black swim team in Atlanta. And my coach, we was having conversations of like lost virginity. I was one of the younger people in that conversation.
Mhm.
we were having conversations about losing your virginity. And my coach, he was so proud of this, but he was like, yeah, I lost my virginity at 8. And even at 13, I was like,
That doesn't sound right.
I was just like, that doesn't. And so he goes on to tell the story, and he was on the bus, and a 12-year-old girl, came up to him, and they got off at the same stop, and he went to her house and they had sex, whatever sex could be with an 8 and a 12-year-old.
Right, right,
And what shook me the most was that he was proud. He was proud of that. But he had been validated as a child by other men. Like, oh, yeah, you got that 12-year-old girl. Oh, you that dude. He's 8.
right. Yeah.
He's 8,
You that child. You're not that
child. Um, and that story is not uncommon. It's just untold. It's not, you don't hear men talk about things that have happened to them. Um, Also, like I said earlier, men need to feel safe before they give their heart. They need to feel safe. And that's getting that safety fit, that feeling of safety is difficult for a man, especially for a Black man, but it's difficult for a man. They're protectors, right? So
Mhm.
they're always on lookout, even with their hearts. And so, like I said earlier, you have to give a man a safe space to give his heart away. Let's say he does that, he gives his heart to a woman, and then she breaks it.
Uh-oh. The girl that broke his heart in 7th grade.
The girl that
Still,
broke his heart in 7th grade. There's a reason why men they stick to that heart. Ooh,
yeah, they hold on to that.
they hold on to it, right? That should tell you it takes a lot for them to feel safe. And
Mm-hmm.
once they feel safe, they are committed. Once they feel safe, they are there. All of their energy is poured into this relationship. It just takes some time,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so after that first initial heartbreak, it takes a long time for them to bounce back, almost twice as long. And in between that time, they are searching. They're just searching, and
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes don't know what they're searching for, because men also don't learn emotional intelligence at, the rate women learn it,
Right.
at the age women learn it. They just don't learn. They don't know what they're feeling half the time, or how to identify their feelings to change their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll be sleeping with all these different women and really not understand why they're doing it.
Mm.
They just know they can. They
Yeah.
just know it feels good for a short amount of time.
Right.
And they'd rather get these short bursts of pleasure than do the hard work of discovering why.
Mm.
Why do I feel this way? Why
Mm.
do I truly why am I acting this way? Why am I treating my body this way? Why am I treating these people this way?
Right.
So it's a lot. Yeah.
And so you talked about the men. Now we got to talk about the women too, because I don't want people to get up here and be like, "Oh, she was just talking shit about men the whole." We not doing that, my brothers. We're not
That
doing
shit
that.
talking, I love y'all.
We're talking about everyone. We're trying to help everyone. So for the women who
Mhm,
are considered promiscuous,
mhm.
allegedly, because I don't want to put a label on
Yeah.
it. You said that there's many different reasons, but what are some things that you've seen in your practice of
Mhm,
if you're dealing with a woman who's constantly engaging in new sexual relationships or being risky in her sexual
mhm.
behavior? What do you think that is stemming from? Is it still trauma?
Uh, I got two different answers. So, what I've experienced with women who are a bit more risky with
Mm-hmm.
their sexual behavior, and when I say risky, I mean not using contraceptives, not
Mm-hmm.
taking contraceptives into her own hands, right? Really, that's the main thing I mean by being risky, because if you want to sleep with him, you want to sleep with her, go ahead, baby, have a good time. You put yourself in danger when you don't protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
when you don't protect yourself. So risky sexual behavior, I see a lot more after a woman has been abused, whether that's sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional, verbal
Mm,
abuse. That's when I see that the most. Like they just kind of stop caring about their bodies and
mm,
what happens to their bodies. And so they don't protect themselves.
mhm.
Um, it was you said with risky behavior, oh, and just being promiscuous, sleeping with a lot of
Right,
people.
yeah. Because a lot of women will, let's say, like, I'll listen to like some like sex podcasts, and that's what they talk about every week about their sexual encounters. And sometimes I'm thinking like,
Mm-hmm.
really, like a choice, or
Mm-hmm.
are you trying to fill some type of void? Are
Mm-hmm.
you trying to chase after some type of love and affection that you never got? And I was thinking, like, I was like, are women like really hoes? Like, should we even be using that term? Because it just made me,
Mm-hmm.
something just clicked in my head that day. Like, should we even be using that term, or even just thinking about myself and in my past, you know, not really, well, I wouldn't say as far as sexual, but just hopping from relationship to relationship with no break in between.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And like I said, there was shame because there was no education. So I'm thinking, oh, people are thinking I'm a hoe. People are thinking because I dated this guy, and then 6 months later I'm with another guy, that I'm a hoe. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought, when I really, as you're a therapist, you start analyzing yourself, and when you learn
Oh
about
my
these different
God.
theories, and I was just like, oh, maybe I was just hurt from that guy that really broke my heart.
Yep. Yep.
Like I was really searching for something to heal that pain.
Yep.
And I didn't know that until I started going to therapy myself. And so
Mhm.
now I just am very careful with my wording when I hear somebody, or when I hear friends gossip about somebody who's sleeping around or whatever, and I'm just like, I'm not saying nothing about that lady, because y'all don't know what she been
Y'all
through.
don't know what she's been through.
You
And
don't know.
what you just said, is definitely hitting the nail on the head. That's one of the biggest reasons why I'll have a client coming to me saying that they're hypersexual, and then when I ask them questions, it's not that you're not hypersexual, you're just feeling a void, or fed up. I've
Mm,
seen fed up quite often too. And when I say fed up, I mean fed up with failed relationships.
mm,
And so they reduce men to sexual objects. Okay.
mm.
It's like, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna hang out
Use
with this
them
dude,
for what? Yeah.
something to eat, have sex real quick, and then I'm going home, right? The hyper independent
Right.
women,
Yeah.
fed up.
Right.
They're just done with the clowns. They're done with getting their heart broken. So they're just like, it's that whole like I'm gonna do to them what they do to us type thing,
Right. Yeah.
right? But I haven't yet to see a woman win that game. I'm just being real. I have yet to see a woman win at that game. We're not
Uh-oh.
built for it.
Uh-oh. Now you gonna upset some people with that.
I'm sorry. And if you are winning at that game, more power to you, baby girl. Like I'm not shading you. I'm
Right,
not
right,
at
right.
all. I would be surprised to see you win. But if that's what you want, I'm here for it.
Mhm.
I'm all for people getting what they want. That's the thing about being a sex therapist. I'm like pleasure positive all the way. If that makes you happy, if you're happy with the choices that you're making, if you understand the repercussions of your actions and you're choosing to behave this way, I'm all good.
Mhm.
I would never judge anybody for that. But if you actually want something different and you're out here behaving this way, I'm going to basically call you out on that. But that's what therapy's for.
Mhm.
You're paying me for me to tell you things that I see that are a bit hard for you to see because you're in it.
Right,
I'm not in your life story. I'm
right.
objective. So I'm watching you tell men that you want long-term relationships, but you sleep with them on the first date. I'm watching you contradict
Ooh.
yourself. I'm
Mhm.
watching it. No judgment. I'm gonna put it out there because I really don't want no hate for this because I've been that girl too.
Right.
Been that girl too. I'll even say this. Did you see that series, Who the Fuck Did I Marry? Oh, I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to say it.
No, you're
Person
good.
word.
I actually didn't sit and watch the full thing,
Eight
but
and a half
I got the
hours.
cliff notes. I got the cliff notes from other TikTok people of
Gotcha.
synopsis of what happened with Reesa T.
Gotcha.
Yes.
My point is, it's not hard to, my point, okay, everybody has something to say about Risa Tisa,
Right.
right? Everybody had a criticism, a judgment, what she should have did right, what she did wrong, all this good stuff.
Mhm.
But you don't know, like you really could be that person. I know I've been a Risa Tisa out here in Atlanta. I have been Risa Tisa, okay?
Yes.
Then
Yeah.
dealt with a dude that did not deserve me, moved him into my house. He was driving my car, and it took me a while to wake up and realize this man is using me. It takes a second sometimes,
Yeah.
and that's because we just wanted love.
Right.
I just wanted love. Risa just wanted love, you
Yeah.
know. I'm pretty sure women who, got mad at the comment that I made, y'all just wanted some love,
Right.
but you weren't
Exactly.
getting it and you got impatient. And so you
Right.
started behaving differently. And
Right.
that's okay. That's an understandable chain of events.
Right.
But if you're coming to me for therapy, I'm going to point out that you have a desire for one thing, but you're behaving differently. I'm just
Right.
going to point that out.
And the one thing about the Risa Tisa situation, which I didn't like, was like, oh, she has low self-esteem, and she's a bigger woman, so this, and this. And I'm like, that can happen to any woman. That
Anybody,
to the best looking woman ever. It
anybody,
doesn't matter.
yes.
If you've been through trauma and you've been hurt by a man and you really believe I might not even get another
Mm-hmm,
ever again, or this is the best that I can get based
mm-hmm.
on what I've already been through, then
Yep.
that can happen to anyone. And it's almost ignorant in a sense to put that with a certain group of people or a
Mm-hmm.
certain look, because it has nothing to do with look. It has to do with the trauma. It has to do with your past experiences. Because
Absolutely.
as you said, you was a Risa Tisa. I've been in similar situations as well, where my friends are like, Mia, why are you dealing with
What
this
are
dude?
you
He's
doing?
treating
Yep.
you terrible. But
What are
I'm like,
you doing?
well, he does this, and
And he and
trying
he
to
said he would.
right. I'm trying to find reasons why I'm there, trying to
Right.
justify, why I'm there. But it's just so important. People like you are so important because you point out that difference in the patterns of behaviors,
Mhm.
what you want versus what
What you're doing.
what you're doing. That's a complete contrast.
And it
Uh,
takes time
right,
for that to
right.
click in someone's head. So like I get, my clients be mad at me sometimes.
Oh yeah.
They just be mad.
Yeah, I've been cussed out a couple times.
Yes, ma'am.
And I
Yes,
work with
ma'am.
teenagers, so I could only imagine what
Girl, I can
adults are.
only imagine with you. Like their brains aren't developed. At least my clients,
Oh
most
yeah,
of them are over 25. Their brains are developed fully.
right.
Most of them. But no, I get the tantrums of like, what do you mean? But no, what you just said made me think of a client who behaves like a Risa Tisa.
Mm,
Honestly, she falls for anything. She believes anything that comes out of a man's mouth and she falls for it. And she's gorgeous. I mean, model worthy,
mhm,
face body, gorgeous, but she does not see it.
mm,
She don't see it.
yeah,
She don't believe she's gorgeous, right? And so she falls victim to piss poor relationship after piss poor relationship when she really should be rejecting these subpar relationships and just being comfortable being alone with herself. And then these high quality men, these high value men she wants will find her.
right,
That's
right.
just what happens.
Yeah.
But if she's so busy telling herself, I'm not worthy, they only want me for sex, they never want anything serious, I always get my heart broken, guess what's going to happen to you?
Wow.
Literally what you're professing
Yeah. The
is
power
going
of
to
the
happen to
tongue.
you.
The power of the tongue. And
Mm,
I wanted to ask too about, I know that you said, well, I don't even want to limit it because my question was, how does somebody who's been abused develop a healthy relationship with sex in itself?
mm. Oh, I love this topic.
So I didn't want to limit it to sexual abuse, but that is what I had in my head because
Mhm.
a lot of, like you said, a lot of people are, sexually abused at a young age,
Yeah.
which causes them to develop an unhealthy relationship with sex.
Mhm.
How can someone who has been abused, whether sexual, physical, whatever the case may be, how can they develop a healthy relationship with sex?
Great question. I'm gonna start by saying it's a difficult process, but it's not impossible. It's definitely easier with a therapist. Like if
Mhm,
you go to a therapist and you tell them, this is my goal is to develop a healthy relationship with sex after this has happened to me, then a therapist can get you there within, 6 months,
mhm,
honestly. But it starts with externalization. You have to remove the abuse from you, right? Because
yeah.
if you're sexually abused, some thoughts that I'm pretty sure that have crossed your mind are like, what did I do to deserve this? Why did this have to happen to me?
Mhm,
Um, just why was I there? Why was I drinking? Why did I wear that? Why did I flirt? You blame yourself,
mhm,
essentially. You blame yourself. And when you blame yourself, you start to tear yourself down. It's, I'm not worthy of real love. I'm not worthy of, a good sexual experience because this is what happened to me. So clearly I'm not worthy.
mhm,
When you go down that rabbit hole, your brain develops pathways of thought, right? And so if you have developed a neural pathway that's saying, I'm not worthy of love because this abuse happened to me, you're going to continue to think that way. Like your mind
mhm.
is not going, that's just automatically where your brain is going to go. A new buzzword now is intrusive thoughts,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
This is where intrusive thoughts come from. These neural pathways that we developed after a traumatic experience, they stick with us.
Mhm,
So we have to, number one, take ourselves out of the problem. I was abused because something messed up happened to that person for
right.
them to trespass against my body, but it is not a reflection of me.
Mm,
It's not a reflection of me at all. And you wouldn't feel that way if you watch somebody be abused. Like, let's say you're watching a movie and you watch a rape scene happen. For example, Color Purple,
mm,
right? Halle Bailey's character was about to get raped by Mr. And so I'm pretty sure no one watched that scene and was just like, look at Halle with that moo on. She was asking for it. Like,
right. Yeah,
Halle
nobody.
did that to herself. No, but the victims usually will kind of come to that conclusion like, oh, I did it. So the first step to healing is to externalize, take yourself out of the problem. The problem is you were sexually abused, period. So once you've externalized it, it wasn't my fault. I didn't do it. I didn't ask for it. I don't deserve it, right? After you have removed yourself from it, then you have to accept it, which also is hard because you fall back into, well, I deserved it. No, no, I didn't. Okay, now we're back. Now I just have to accept that that happened to me. But why did it happen to me? We have all of these unanswered questions. Why was I there? Why did this have to happen to me? And we
Right.
have to be okay with not knowing the answer to those questions. Another great big hurdle. Got to get over, but not impossible, right?
Yeah.
So as soon as we externalize ourselves from the problem, we accept that this happened, then you can start to develop your own relationship with your sexual self. And
Mm,
that takes exploration. What do I really like? You know, what do I not like? Like, do I like being touched here? Or do I like being touched there? Am I attracted to men? Am I attracted to women?
mm,
What you have to explore. So once you've accepted, you kind of start to develop a healthy curiosity
right.
for sex and sexuality again, and giving yourself the freedom to explore it, the
Mm,
freedom to explore it. Just protect yourself,
right.
you know?
Forget about that, y'all.
You can't forget about that. Like
Please.
I'm saying, explore, but protect yourself. If you want
Mm,
to go to a sex club, go to a sex club. Just have a purse full of condoms. You'll be fine. You know
right,
what I'm saying?
right,
You can explore.
right,
You want to have your first, dude on dude experience, go for it. Take a condom. Yeah.
right.
Take a condom.
So now I'm starting to understand the difference between like the choice versus filling a void,
Mm-hmm.
because it also involves a level of, preparation and being safe and being calculated a little bit and understanding what you're getting into versus just I'm just getting into it because I want to feel loved or
Yep.
I want to feel that. So that's some good clarity. And also it just reminded me of, I don't even know if Jay-Z said this, but I saw that like Jay-Z said somewhere like you can't heal what you won't reveal.
Ooh,
And that
overdue.
always stuck with me because even just listening to you and having to deal with my own like sexual trauma from a child, and that was one of the things that my therapist made me do. She was like, so do you think that you could say that? And I was like, say what? She was like, that you were sexually abused. I'm like, huh?
What?
I was
I
just,
was what?
she's like, because that's what you're telling me. And I was like,
Yeah.
it took me a while to actually say I was sexually abused. I never really said it and I never wanted to deal with it. But when you're in a profession like what we're in, if you don't deal with that, it's going to be really hard for you to do your job because
Yes.
there's a lot of clients that have been through those things. Kids, I'm working with kids who have been through the same thing that I have been through, and
Triggering.
it just triggered me. And I was like, I used to tell my boss, please don't give me no kids that's been sexual.
Mm,
Like, I'm not taking this case.
yeah.
To the point where I remember my boss was like, Nia, we sent you a case. Why haven't you contacted the family? I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do it. Never did it.
Never did
And
it.
then they came back to me again, like, Nia, why didn't you take this case? I'm just like, I just don't feel comfortable. And then
Yeah.
she's okay, well, next time just tell us. But, you know, I wanted to help this little girl.
Mhm.
And I end up helping her, but I had to start going to therapy. That was my first like thing to be like, Nia, you probably need to go to therapy.
Mhm. I had a moment just like that.
You
I had a
probably need
moment
to go to
just.
therapy for yourself. And yes, I like how you said to externalizing it. This is
Mhm.
not something that you deserved. This
Nope.
is not something that was a fault of your own. Like separating yourself from the actual action that happened, it does help you move forward because now I'm able to talk about it.
Mhm.
I'm able to, move forward and have healthy sexual relationships and not do it from a place of, you know, filling a void or being desperate or you know what I'm saying? So I like that you said that externalize,
Mhm.
externalize. Wow. Wow, wow,
Yep.
wow, wow.
You gotta take yourself out of it. I operate mostly out of narrative therapy.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking narrative or I was thinking trauma focused CBT kind of reminded me of that.
No, I do like trauma focused CBT. But I bounce between narrative and solution focus all the time. Narrative and solution focus. So like I'll have a client, I had a client that she came to me because she was date raped
Mm,
and she was feeling all the feelings that come with that. And so I asked her like, okay, so this very unfortunate, awful thing happened to you. What does that mean? And that took answering that question took the whole session, but really what I was trying to get her to realize is this happened to you. What did you tell yourself about it?
Mm.
Because we're all the authors of our own stories. We're all the main characters, whether we know it or not. Some people purposefully put themselves in subordinate character positions, but you're still the main character of your story. So this happened in your story. How are we moving forward? What did you tell yourself about it? What are you believing about this story, right? Write it out for me. And so that's when she realized that she took this thing that happened to her,
Mhm.
right? And made it her problem. Like I did this and I
Mm.
shouldn't have been. I'm not worthy. And clearly, I'm only a sexual object. And I'm just like, who told you that? Where did
Right,
it come from? You told yourself that. You wrote that in your story.
right.
And
Yeah.
so if we keep going down this narrative, you're going to attract men who only see you as a sexual object because that's what you believe about yourself. You told
Mm.
yourself that. So now that's what you're going to attract. So we had to shift that story, rewrite it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's amazing the power of the brain and how our own thoughts just affect everything, like every decision that we make. And
Mhm.
sometimes we're almost a victim of ourselves
Mm.
in a sense.
I want to share something my therapist told me that just completely blew my mind. Um, she said, when you say yes to something, what are you saying no to? When you say no to something, what are you saying yes to?
Mm.
So if we stick with the theme of like our conversation, if you're saying yes to promiscuity, you're saying no to what? What are you saying no to in your life? If
Mm.
you say no to, a certain type of person, dating a certain type of person, what are you saying yes to? And
Mm.
when you think about that, your choices kind of become more clear. Like, okay,
Right,
maybe I should move differently. Maybe I made a mistake in the past and now I can go a different direction. What are you
right,
saying yes to and what are you saying no to?
right. And I did want to ask you a little bit more about dating, but as we're talking, it's almost like you're kind of clarifying some of the questions that I already had about dating because like you gave an example of the woman who was date raped and how oh men only see me as a sexual object and that's the type of men that she was attracting. So it kind of spills over into dating in a sense that if this is what we believe about ourselves, then that's the type of men that we're going to attract. And as I've been getting older, it's like I didn't realize how much power that I actually have over these
Mm,
out. Like, 'cause I've been that girl. Like, I've been that girl that said,
me too.
niggas ain't shit. All these niggas do is da 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 da. All they want to do is have sex. All they want to do. And it's just like, that was the narrative that I'm running through in my brain. But as
Mm.
I'm getting older and just healing from a lot of things, I'm like, well, really, you was kind of engaging, you was saying you want a relationship, but engaging in this, and that don't add up. So you're
Yeah.
gonna continue to get the same type of guy because you're saying you want one thing, but you're doing a different thing.
Mhm.
So I think that that will help if a lot of not even women, but people in general actually act or make decisions based off of what they actually really want instead of, you know, making impulsive decisions, then
Mhm.
that might improve their dating. Their
Oh, it
dating
absolutely
experience.
would. Absolutely would. I teach a seminar called Dating with Integrity, and
Mm.
that's literally what the whole thing is. Like, how do you, number one, learn about yourself?
Mhm.
Like, what do I really want? Because that's a large question. Like, how do you figure that out for yourself? And then how do you stick to your guns? Because you're going to be
Ooh,
challenged out here in
yes.
these streets. You got
When
to
is
be
this
10
gonna
toes
be?
down about yourself. You got to be 10 toes down about
Yeah.
yourself. And oftentimes we're not
We're-
because we have these other narratives going through our head. Girl, when I tell you I understand, I live in Atlanta, Georgia. It's a miracle I found a good man and I married him, snatched him up. Okay. But no, like if you have these narratives running through your mind, you're going to attract, you're
Mm.
going to attract what you're thinking about. You're going to. So you can say all day, up, down, left, and right, that you want somebody, you want a person. Yeah. But as soon as you start accepting behavior from that person that contradicts what you actually want, you're not going to get it.
Mm.
You just
Okay, tell me about this seminar one more time, because I might have to attend. I might
So
have to attend.
I host seminars on this website called Meetup.
Okay.
And I don't have any posted at the moment. I actually need to fix that. But yes, I host seminars on, it's a free, website called meetup.com. And so you would have to join the group. It's called I think it's called Dating 101. Let me find the actual name of the group. Dating 101 Masterclass. And this group is hosted by the private practice that I work at. And so, if you become a member of that group, you'll get notifications about all of our seminars. Like one of my colleagues today, she hosted a seminar about Gottman, who is the foremost like couples therapy expert that all of us follow. And he has this program called the 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work, and
Mm.
she taught her seminar about that. So it's very comprehensive dating information that you can get from our meetup group. But yes, that's where I host them. And yeah, dating with intention. I might have to spin the block on that one. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, yes, I would love to, join or
Mhm.
even tell people about it that are struggling with similar things that I'm struggling with. But
Mhm.
since you already started talking about some of the things that you do, why don't you tell my audience about like where they could find you, or even if somebody wants to, once you ask their therapist, how can they go about that? How do they find you?
Okay, so I can be found a few places. You can find me on Psychology Today. You can find me on Black Girl Therapy. Where else? To be honest, I'm in the middle of like revamping my own internet presence. The internet
Mhm.
gives me anxiety, y'all. I'm
It's
not even
so much stuff on there. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just gives me anxiety because like it lasts forever and you got to represent yourself well and you don't want to be canceled. But anyway, these are just excuses.
Yes.
I am working on my online presence, but yes, you can find me on Psychology Today or Therapy for Black Girls, and it's a few other databases that I'm on that I'm actually blanking on right now because
Okay.
thankfully there are a lot of mental
Right.
health
But psychology
databases.
today is pretty, easy to
Mm-hmm.
remember because a lot of, therapists are on there,
Yes.
including myself. Um, so
Awesome.
that would be for Georgia residents only, as far
Yes.
as individuals.
So it's for Georgia residents. If you wanted to see me and you live in another state,
Mhm.
it'll fall under sex coaching,
Okay.
right? Opposed to
Okay.
therapy. Now, I still would be working under my supervisor, who
Right.
is licensed sex therapist. So you technically would be getting similar information. It's just a different way we process the paperwork and
Right.
different fees and things like that. So, it's red tape and laws.
Right. Right.
Red tape and
But at
laws.
least you still can even provide the sex coaching for,
Mhm.
people out of state because yeah, a lot of people that listen to this podcast do live in California and they might want to see you after this. So, but I
That
do
would
have
be
listeners in
dope.
Georgia as well. So yeah, that's definitely a great resource. And if you don't
Yeah.
mind um sharing, what's the name of the private practice? Are you allowed to say?
Yes, it's called Atlanta Sex Therapy and Coaching. The website is sextherapyatlanta.com. And you can like book a session with me directly off there.
Oh,
But what I could do for you, girl, is I could offer anyone that's coming from your podcast a free 50-minute session with me.
oh my goodness. I think you're the first therapist to ever do that.
Well,
Wow.
look, I'm an intern still. I need clients. I need
Right, right.
clients and hours.
Wait, say that one more time. A free 50-minute what?
It's a free 50-minute consultation. It's what it's called. But basically, you would register for it. I actually will give you the link. I'll email it to
Yeah,
you
I'll
now.
put the link in the description.
Oh,
Yes.
wait, don't do that because I don't need folk. I don't know how to go about this. It's like I want your listeners to, okay, just put it in the
We'll
description.
figure it out. We'll
We'll
figure
figure it out.
yeah, we'll figure it out
But
on telling.
um
Telling.
so your listeners can book a 15-minute session with me, and then if they wanted to continue to work with me, then we would have that conversation.
Right, right. Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Great. Great. That is
I will
great.
email that to
You
you.
just really just made my day when you said that. But I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And I knew the first time I talked to you on the phone, I said, we're gonna have a good episode. We're gonna have a good episode because
Yay.
it's not just that you are intelligent and knowledgeable, but I feel the passion behind it. And that's the biggest thing. Like you really are passionate about this and really are seeking out people to educate them on these things. And I can hear it in your voice. I feel it. So I really appreciate you, and I love highlighting Black therapists or Black interns, soon to be therapists. Okay.
6 months, girl.
Good
6 months.
luck on your journey. And
Thank you.
I can't wait to hear what you do in your career. And once you get licensed, and I can't wait to refer
Over,
people to you like, hey, I got this woman that
always over
I'm like,
with.
I
When
know
I
the
pass that
right person
exam.
for you. It's not me, but I know the right person for you. So I can't wait. And I just want to say thank you for joining me today. Um, do you want to give out your socials for people to follow you? No?
I
Yes?
can. I would just rather people find me on the
Okay.
practices website
So
because I'm not gonna see your friend request. Like I just don't even
I get you. I get you. You're trying to get your degree. You're not even on that. Got you.
lie.
I will put the website that you said earlier in the video, and also in the description. Whichever one you want me to put, I'll put it in there so that people can find you. And don't forget to follow myself, What's Good With You, _, What's Good With You. And
Yeah.
also my Instagram, Nia Queen, and subscribe to this video, like this video. This is a very interesting topic, a very good episode, and I want everybody to learn something from this. So don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page and like us on Instagram. And this has been another episode of What's Good With You. Thank you.
Hey.
All right.